Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today's verse we're going to talk is about in chapter 1, verse 1.19. So I'll repeat. You can repeat after me. So I'll just talk out the verse and you can repeat after me. Saghosho dhatra rashtanam hridayani vedaryat nabhascha prithvim chaiva tumulo bhayanunandayam Saghosho dhatra rashtanam hridayani vedaryat nabhascha prithvim chaiva tumulo bhayanunandayam Saghosho dhatra rashtanam hridayani vedaryat nabhascha prithvim chaiva tumulo bhayanunandayan. Last time. Saghosho dhatra rashtanam hridayani vedaryat nabhascha prithvim chaiva tumulo bhayanunandayan. Saha, that. Ghoshaha, vibration. Dhritarashtrana, of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Hridayani, hearts. Vedaryat, shattered. Nabha, the sky. Cha, also. Prithvim, the surface of the earth. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Tumulaha, uproarious. Abhayanundayan, resounding. Translation. The blowing of these different conch shells become uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the herds of the sons of the Dhritarashtra. Purport by His Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. When Bhishma and the others on the side of the Duryodhana blew their respective conch shells, there was no herd breaking on the part of the Pandavas. Such occurrences are not mentioned, but in this particular verse it is mentioned that the herds of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered by the sounds vibrated by the Pandavas party. This is due to the Pandavas and their confidence in Lord Krishna. One who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of the greatest calamity. So I repeat, this last line is very important. One who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of the greatest calamity. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, I mean, if we see in chapter 1, there is an observing of the armies is been talked about in the Bhagavad Gita. So, if we see, Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya how the battlefield is set and how the scene is getting set, where the the armies are standing on the both of sides and the battle preparation is about to begin. And after that, there is a blowing of the conch shell happening on the sides of the Kauravas first, and then the blowing of the conch shells is happening from the Pandavas side. So as soon as the Pandavas are blowing their conch shells, the sound of the conch shells is is very different compared to the sound which is generated by the uh, Kauravas, not in sense of the physical sound perspective, but how it affects the hertz of it. Similarly, I mean, a lesson, we can see a lesson taught by a great teacher. The lesson might be the same. I mean, if we see, we know, we talk about like the teacher is great. The lessons might be the same. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 or 10 plus 2 is equal to 12. But what matters is the teacher and the purity of the teacher, how he teaches the lesson. So similarly, in the similar context, we can see over here the sound which is generated by the conch shells of the Pandavas and the Pandavas army has actually kind of greatly affected the confidence of the Kauravas army, and that has been getting shattered. While nothing has been mentioned in the case when the Kauravas are actually blowing their conch shells. And if we see what is the reason behind it, the reason behind it, there is a utmost devotion of the Pandavas towards the Lord, which is on their side, even though he has taken a vow not to pick up any weapons, but just the mere presence of the Lord on the side has such a great effect. And apart from presence, the second thing which is most important of this chapter is the devotion of the Pandavas towards the Lord. I mean, if we see, I mean, the Pandavas has actually lost so much prior to the war. There is nothing more to be left. I mean, if we, I mean, even from materialistic perspective, I mean, born as a Kshatriyas who has such a great honor 5,000 years back, to thought about the small ego which we are carrying in ourselves. I mean, if we go on the road, if someone takes a cut in front of our car or even cut, I mean, a two-wheeler or an auto takes a cut, we loses our control. But over here, the Kshatriyas who are, I mean, the Pandavas are the Kshatriya clan. I mean, so much things has happened, but they have utmost devotion and on to the Lord, and still they are in there. There is nothing to lose because of the they have taken the shelter of the Supreme Lord. So the shelter of the Supreme Lord is such a comforting thing that basically takes off all the fear which is present in our heart. I mean, the fear could be multi-dimensional. I mean, fear of losing something. I mean, or fear of the other personalities, or the fear from the things happening around us. Probably too cold, too hot, extraneous weather conditions, or so there could be fear which could be originated from the different dimensions. I mean, or the fear is from internally generated also. I mean, our mind gives us so much of fear, or there's a fear from the others also, like the other living beings. I mean, whether it could be in your job or whether it could be in your in the or in multiple aspects, or fear from the different financial conditions, uh, fear from multiple other things, and each and every one of us. I mean, it's not that the Pandavas didn't have the fear, or I mean, I or anyone. I mean, everyone in this material world has some or the other aspect of the fear lying. So, but what is solution of the fear? How to become fearless? People say, I mean, like if you talk, there's a lot of talks going on that you should be fearless. Yes, you should be fearless, but no one talks about how to be fearless. They'll talk about, yeah, you should be fearless, you should have confidence in yourself, you should have this, you should have that. But what is the source of that thing which can actually give you all that? The source is when once take a shelter of the Lord, then the whole process started. get started. I mean, when you take the shelter, you start depending on to the Lord rather than trying to be a controller of the situation. You just go along with the will of the Lord. So whether it then it becomes like whether you are in some joyous situation or some in difficult situation, you can always relate. Okay, uh, this is the situation which has been provided by the Lord, and I need to do my own stuff or my the best of the effort, and let Lord take care of the things, and whatever is the best for me will be provided by the Lord. So similarly over here we can see, I mean, that because of the confidence of Pandavas in Lord Shri Krishna, there is no fear which is present in the Pandavas. While the Kauravas on the other side, who were trying to be, the Duryodhana was trying to be controller, that he was thinking, I have such a big army and I have so many Maharathis in my army. I have got Bhishma, I have got Drona, I have got Ashwadhama, I have got Karna, and these Pandavas have nothing to count upon. So except namely one or two, which can be easily defeated if we see it from a materialistic perspective by a single person only. So, but even just with the presence of the Lord, I mean, the equations have turned around, or the tables have been turned around. So, so the root which we need to understand is the presence of is the shelter which the Pandavas have taken into the towards the Lord, and that is in the midst of the greatest calamity. In sense, I mean, if there is no fallback option for the Pandavas which has left. I mean, if you think, I mean, take one step back. I mean, the Pandavas were even ready for the 5 villages. I mean, Lord Krishna says, okay, give me just 5 villages so that they can just sustain. It's very hard. I mean, if you usually in the property dispute we say, okay, no, we want 50% or 60%. It's not like that. It's just like you say, okay, give me this place where I can sleep. So that is not the case over here, and that is even being denied. So if you think in sense, there is no fallback option. So, but even without any fallback option, I mean, just because of the surrender towards the Lord, I mean, there is hardly any fear. And there is no fear, then there is, when you have no fear, then there is no sense of any losing upon to it. The issue or the stress which we feel nowadays comes up because of there is a sense of losing something. I mean, when we have a fear of losing something, then we start thinking upon it to save it actually. When we understand that there is no actually sense of gaining or lose, it's all because coming of the Lord's plans, then you become a little bit more relaxed and you won't be in that tumultuous mind, I would say. So, and then that has been and then that has been basically seen in the multiple situations actually. I mean, we can see just because of the surrender of the Lord towards the Lord by the Pandavas. So, I mean, the Lord has taken such a humble position. I mean, think in sense, I mean, Lord is a supreme Lord. I mean, and what position he has taken is the chariot driver of the Arjuna, and it's not chariot driver just like our driver of an Uber or our personal car driver. During a war, I mean, if you read how the charioteer used to be, so he was actually participating in the war without having any kind of things to protect himself. I mean, what he had only the reins actually. So he has to sometimes face the whole rain of the arrows which are coming, and the person who's governing the chariot, which in this case is Arjuna, when he's going around the battlefield, so it's not like Krishna, you take left, you take right. No, it's like you are the person who is on the chariot will be kicking the charioteer to go to the direction. Just like you must have seen how the horses are actually being controlled. So we don't even actually sometimes are able to face that kind of a behavior even from the kids, our own kids. Probably we'll say behave yourself, right? I mean, at least for me, if my daughter says, I'll say this is not the way you need to behave. You have to talk out properly. But in this case, the humble position what Lord has taken over here is astounding actually. I mean, even though he is the supreme Lord, just because here the devotees, the Pandavas are the devotees of the Lord, and they have surrendered to the Lord over here. So Lord goes to that extent to serve his devotees over here, and this this intimate relationship is actually comes in when the surrender comes. It's a kind of a circle. It's a kind of a feedback. If we see that once we start doing a surrender to the Lord says, "You take a step, I'll take 10 steps towards you," and this has been confirmed by the acharyas and by ourselves and all the people who are sitting in the room or probably who are listening and who are experiencing some sort of a bliss into it. So it's a very kind of a scientific, and it's nothing kind of not in sense of superficial, because the one which is superficial cannot stay for long. So coming back onto the point over here is that the whole thing starts with surrendering towards the Lord. And if we see in today's world, even everyone is bound to surrender to someone or the other. There is no way that one can survive without a surrender. I mean, I can say, yeah, I am not surrendering to anyone, but that would be a false statement actually. So how it's a false statement? I mean, we can see. I mean, either we are surrendering to the parents at some point. I mean, I'm talking about at different points, even life, if we consider the whole life spectrum of it. So we would be either surrendering to parents at some time, surrendering to our teachers as we are going into the school, then to the professors, then to our boss. So even if you're an entrepreneur, then you'll be surrendering to your customers. The customers will be saying something and you say, yes sir, yeah, I'll try to fix it, right? It's not like, okay, you go away. If that is happening, and you're gonna close down your business. So the surrender is a natural, I would say, that has to be done. So, and then later on, I mean, even a political leader, however strong he is, then he has to surrender to at least in democracy, to the people. Even if it's an autocracy, then it's to be the external powers or to the multiple other things. And then we travel anywhere, you have to surrender to government, to the laws, so forth and so forth. I mean, we cannot really, I mean, get away saying that we are not surrendered. Even onto the walking, we are surrendered towards the other. I mean, you cannot say, okay, I'm going to walk onto the center of the road. No, the car or the traffic is going to hit you. You have surrendered to the laws that you walk onto the side lane so that you can preserve yourself. There are laws onto it, right? So, in a sense, there is surrender which is inherently being present. If you think about it, the surrender is already we are doing it, and each and every aspect of life, whether it's surrender of time. I mean, sitting over here is a surrendering of the time actually. Sitting and going, I mean, sleeping on the bed is surrendering to our senses that my body is tired. So I am surrendering to my body limitations. So then it's like surrendering to our wishes that I need to work for 8 hours because I have some wishes. So I'm surrendering to my wishes. Then surrendering to the kids. Sometimes you are doing the things which is contrary to your needs, but we are doing it for our kids, for our parents. So surrender is there. There is no way that surrender you can actually get away with it. But the surrender is, then it becomes very different if we surrender with keeping the Lord in the center. Then everything becomes a Lord centric. I mean, surrender to the kids, yes. Yeah, surrender to the kids, yes, we have to do it. But why not keep the Lord in the center? Surrender to parents, surrender to jobs, surrender to your business, surrender while walking, talking, or eating. So everything it's the same surrender. It's just now the surrender is just with the Lord in the center. So what has changed? The surrender is still gonna be the same. It's just the flavor of that is been now is very different over here. And and what Krishna says, I mean, in other words, and with it's a kind of what is a pushti of it. Like if you surrender, what happens? He says, what happens? So Krishna says, like this is very famous word, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vaja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshishyami Ma Shucha. So that you leave everything or you surrender onto me, and I'm guaranteeing you. I mean, even if we do any kind of surrender actually outside, there is no guarantee. We surrender to job, there is no guarantee that job will be staying over there. I say to my boss, okay, boss, I'm surrendering to yourself. Said, yeah, very good, very good. But if there is a downturn or recession come, okay, tata, bye bye. That surrender was for that time, but now we cannot afford you, so we'll let you go. Or even for the business, the customer says that even if you're surrendering to me, I mean, still I don't have money. You can, or even to the parents, or sometimes the kids says, okay, I cannot afford your expenses, so please excuse your surrender. Or to the kids, or kids will say, you're not able to afford me, so excuse me to be a parent also. So that, but in this case, what Krishna is saying, that is written and that has been spoken, aham tvam sarva papebhyo, that I am guaranteeing you, literally, if you are surrendering to me, mokshishyami mahashucha. So which is, I mean, I shall deliver you from all the sinful reactions. Do not fear. So it's an absolute statement. So usually in this material world you won't find really an absolute statements actually. There are always usually a terms and conditions if you go to any place. I mean, even if you have anything, I mean, any kind of a material resources, I mean, even if I have hundreds of crores or 5 crores, I mean, I'm taking a flight to somewhere, there's always some terms and conditions that, okay, especially in Bangalore, the terms and conditions of the surrender is very weak. There could be a lot of traffic, you might not reach on the flight. The flight is not technically sound, weather could be bad, pilot could be 10 other things. So there's always terms and conditions. But over here, Krishna is saying, I shall deliver to you. I mean, aham tvam vasam. Aham is not like that someone else. It's aham, that Krishna is saying myself, tvam to you. Aham and tvam. So it's a kind of a personal, what do you say, bond he is giving to you. That if you are going with the surrender, that it's my personal guarantee that I'll deliver you from all the sinful reactions. And the beautiful part is, it's actually, he's saying, do not fear. It's not like, okay, you surrender, अरे भैया अब क्या होगा? So surrender कर दिया तो क्या अभी हमें गांव में बैठना है? Only sorry, do I need to go to forest and do all and leave everything? No, it's just the flavor needs to be changed over here. And we are doing each and, I mean, probably all of us are doing, we cannot, we are not gonna leave everything and just do it. It's just the flavor has to be changed. It's just we are doing everything with Krishna in the center. So whether any activity you talk about, there's always, you can see it from the Krishna consciousness perspective, or from the how to keep Krishna in the center. And so it's so beautifully presented by our Srila Prabhupada, and he's an actual, I mean, the saint of, I mean, he's a, why he said Prabhupada, I mean, he's a jagat guru. Why is a jagat guru? Because of his, we can see from his surrender, I mean, in such a short span of a time, I mean, Prabhupada was so surrendered to the Lord. And if you think in sense, I mean, you must have heard people are going to US, they have to do so much of preparation, and there are so much of uncertainties going over there. So imagine going in 1966, where people haven't heard about the US, what is that? Going alone at the age of, at that age, which is basically, if you talk to our parents that age, we say, okay, you go to some holy place, take Lord's name, don't work so hard. So at the age of, at that age, he went to US and in such a short span of time, he was able to, prove the prophecy of Shri Gaur Sundar to be true. So that's what the the absolute surrender to the Lord can do, which is we have heard it from the first time versions from the Prabhupada's disciples. Probably two or three or four generations later, it would be looking very. That's what I see. People will say, "Do you really think it could happen? Did it really happen?" People can question it, but it's our good fortune that we can see and we can hear from uh, the Prabhupada's disciple how it happened and what Prabhupada was. Hearing it from the people who have got a first-hand experience is very different what you see in the movies or probably in the YouTube videos. It's similar to, you can think in sense, if you most of us must have watched a movie, right? And most of us must have watched a drama, probably a Ram Leela or Krishna Leela, enacted by the. But once it's the drama is like you are doing it for the first time, so and in the movies it's very different. So coming back to the point is that being surrendered to the Lord, Prabhupada, so Prabhupada was actually empowered to do such a great feat and establishing 108 temples in such a short span. From today's perspective, to just set up a one company, it takes minimum of 10 years to 12 years just to set up one small company. So, and having such a movement and and delivering so millions of souls. I mean, it's beyond it. It's one of the unique thing which could have happened in this age. I won't say even a century. It's probably an age thing, and bringing the prophecy of Shri Gaur Sundar Mahaprabhu to be true over here. And also, uh, so so coming back, we can see the examples of surrender. That was one example of the surrender is our Srila Prabhupada, but in our closer bounds, we can see example of surrender also. There are so many animals actually who are surrendered to the Lord. They are not making grandiose plans. Okay, how to survive? How I'm gonna survive. There are trillions of ants. They are not making any plans how I'm gonna survive. Somehow or the other, Lord has empowered them to find their food. Whether it's an ant or whether it's a big elephant actually. So it's just, that's how they've been programmed, that they are actually defaulted kind of a surrender to the Lord. Okay, they are depending on the will of the Lord. So being a human being, we are a little bit more complex, definitely. Uh, Dharam Veena Pashu Samana. If we are not following a dharam, we are actually kind of, I would say, Pashu Samana, even lesser than that, because in case of Pashu, they are still depending on the Lord for their food, shelter, and everything. But if one is not following the dharma or Sanatan dharma, then it's actually below. Because in case of animals, they are still somewhat surrendered to the Lord for their day-to-day needs. But in case of human, that's not the case even. So yeah. So coming back to it, so if we have to surrender, so why not surrender to the Lord itself? So and purify all our activities, and when we keep Lord in the center, things will start taking a very different turn into the life. Otherwise, what's what would be happening, that the things will be flowing, the time will be passing, which is very fast. When we were in school, the time used to pass very slowly. Probably we used to see how the whole class is actually taking like from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. used to be look like this, the time is not passing away, and the whole day used to be like a one big day to get exhausted. But as we grow, somehow the time pace, changes a lot. So so rather than surrendering our time to a mundane activities, it just, if we make it towards a Krishna conscious activity, the things will go in a very drastic and a sweeter way. In sense, and we can see what's happening, the fear will go away. What would happen once we start practicing, take the path of the devotion? And when we say, I mean, how do we surrender that taking the path of the devotion? So devotion starts with chanting the holy name of the Lord, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So even, I mean, Hare means over here is, I mean, if we go into the one of the literal word meaning of Hare is Harna. Hare. Hare means to take it away. So Krishna is like we are asking Krishna to take it away. We're trying to surrender. You take away. So usually you try to take away the things which you don't want, right? So, so, and Krishna has been so generous, and which we can see how Krishna is devoted to its devotees. So he'll come and and take off a lot of things out of the of our body or mind or all the different aspects. Yeah. So so how we are doing the surrender, that is a very important thing. So and when we should be doing it. So surrender is also important. It's not like something that okay. It's usually you see. I mean, there is some practices that when our clothes get worn out, we give it to the others or to folks who cannot really afford it. So that's not really surrender. That is like okay, getting away with the things which we are not using. The surrender is something, the thing which we are actually want of it. So when I say things which we are to be want of it, it could be material thing, but the most important thing is the time, because you cannot buy your time actually. Whatever we have in our life. I mean, so when Parikshit Maharaj was get to know that he's gonna be dead in next 7 days. So Parikshit Maharaj asked all the sages, what is the best thing I have to do? I have got a limited set of a time. In this next 7 days, what is the best thing? He said, okay, you have to go, I mean, just do the hearing and chanting the names of the Lord. So, so, so from there we can see, I mean, or from our personal aspect, we cannot buy even a second of it. So the surrender starts towards at least giving some amount of our personal time to the Lord, and that could be chanting the holy names of the Lord, reading the scriptures, especially the scriptures I mean translated and written by His Holiness, His Grace, Srila Prabhupada. And once we are giving the most important aspect of our life, the time. The time is actually the most important aspect of the life of our life. And when we start giving that aspect of our life to the Lord, Lord will reciprocate. So there is no way the Lord cannot reciprocate. And we can see in the story of Sudama. So when Sudama reaches Dwarka, so Sudama's wife says, okay, you are going to Dwarka, you should take something for Lord and Lord's queens. So, but Sudama said, we don't have anything. He said, okay, let me try to gather something so that you can offer. So what they got is a chipped rice. So Krishna is, I mean, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality. He knows that Sudama is carrying. So when Krishna asks Sudama, what you have got? My sister, my bhavi or your wife must have something for me. There is no way that you're not even presenting me. So Sudama was very much hesitated that such a small meager gift won't suit to a king's practice over there. So he was very hesitant. But what Krishna is a bhavagrahi. So he looks at the bhava, what we are carrying in our heart, the bhav, what we have. It's not about how much we have it. So from Sudama's perspective, that was all his fortune actually, that bag of rice. to get it, I mean, even to take a loan out of it, right? Loan from the neighbors and get a bag of rice and offer to the Lord. So Lord got so much indebted that he was even ready to give away all the three worlds. I mean, he was stopped by Rukmani ji that Lord cannot actually give that, but like Lord is like bhavagrahi. What we are giving the bhava to the Lord is gonna reciprocate onto it. So it's not really about the the quantity. I mean, it's more of the quality. So the important thing which we have, the what is the most important thing we have it in our life is the time, and we cannot say that I don't have a less time or more time. Everyone has 24 hours a day. Whether someone is financially more capable or whether someone is financially less capable, the time is what is provided by the Lord is same to everyone, and then the bhava is something which is our which we have to give it from whatever devotion which we can show to the Lord. And Krishna says, I mean, patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhakta prachati. Patram is like patta, pushpa is flower, phalam toyam. Phalam is simple water and toyam is just phalam is fruit and toyam is water. So he's not even asking, give me all the riches, give me so much of a gold, so much of a diamond. No, like Krishna is a bhavagrahi. I mean, so if we are having an exchange of a bhava or showing our surrender to the Lord in terms of the things which we already have, so there is no way that Krishna is not going to respond. And how he responds, we can see. What we are saying, that the fear will go away from the heart, and in the case of a pure devotees like the Arjuna, he is taking such an humble position over here also. So Krishna goes to that extent. I mean, and also in the case of Sudama, that he is ready to, I mean, give all the three worlds towards the Sudama. Like just because the bhava, Krishna says, okay, Sudama has surrendered everything. So as a friend, I'm bound to give everything in exchange to him. So what Krishna is a supreme Lord. He's got everything. So he's ready to surrender everything towards the Sudama. So that's what and once you become a devotee, what the devotees, then the different your aspect, your needs will be different, and compared to not really to the worldly affairs. So as you take a step or plunge into the ocean of devotion, so you will come out every day as a new person. It's like every day will be a new day, in sense it's not gonna be mundane. Every day would be a new realization. Every day would be your viewpoint towards the things will start be changing. And how that happens, the first step is the surrender. So surrender is the one thing which we have to actually do it, and we are already doing it. People are surrendered to one-eyed demon most of the times now in the TV. You're surrendering so much of our precious time actually, right? I mean, towards the TV or another small-eyed demon, the phone. So, and if you take some conscious effort, and the things would never be the same actually. Yeah, but yeah, and for that, I mean, we need to pray and give a little bit amount of a time to the Krishna, so that Krishna, this is your time, and I want to be staying. Want to have a one-on-one with you, or want to have a one-to-one meeting with you. So there's going to be a lot of obstructions, but definitely any new thing or anything you'll do, but you have to, as you surrender to Krishna and let him take control, you have to do our efforts. And surely for each or everyone it has worked, and that's why we are over here, and it has worked. We can hear or read about our previous acharyas. I mean, how it works. It's a complete science of devotion, how it whole thing works. And there are so many, I mean, senior devotees or Prabhupada's disciples. We can see the achar or their behavior, or even in our center there are so many senior devotees who are exemplary actually, and 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 it all comes from by surrender to the Lord, and we are on that same path. Yeah, that's so and we can see. So this surrender is the first step for each and everything in our life, whether for material gains or whether for spiritual gains. Everything starts with a surrender. For kids, it's like you have to surrender your playtime to focus on the studies time, or to surrender your some goodies or some of the things which you enjoy to actually excel in the studies, or vice versa towards the sports, waking up early so that you get a good time. So surrender is something which we are doing on every minute or every second basis. So it's just the surrender is something now we have to focus towards the Lord and let Lord take control of it. So, and on this part I'll just close like Krishna says in another word. I mean, why the surrender needs to be important, and what is about the surrender. So he says, even though we are surrendering to the if someone is not surrendering to Krishna directly, he is indirectly surrendering to the Maya in some other which we discussed, right? So the surrender is important, but otherwise the whole cycle, the surrender towards the Maya is an infinite loop which will keep on moving, which will keep on going and going, and through millions of lifetimes which we are experiencing over here. That's why we are over here. So we are in that sense. And also Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, Ekam sarvasya prabho mata sarva pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhav samanvita. So buddha iti matva bhajante mam. So iti matva means over here, thus knowing. Bhajante mam, become devoted to me, the learned one with great attention. So after knowing it, we cannot really ignore it. So it's someone who doesn't know it can ignore it, can say that okay, I wasn't knowing about it, so I didn't follow it. If we know it, then there is no other way not to follow it. It's like you're trying to burn off your hand by putting in the fire. Okay, I didn't know the fire can actually burn my hand. Now we know, the scripture has told us, it's very scientific, that if we know this thing, you have to follow. If you don't do it, you will end up in a different state. So it's after knowing it, we need to follow it so that we can be happy and fearless and make further progress in our devotional life, or to be happy. To keep everything on the sides, what everyone is hankering is towards the happiness. That's what we are looking out. I mean, even whether it's a billionaire or a common man walking on the road, all of these endeavors are towards going towards and attaining and happiness. So, and to stay happy, this is the only way. And along with that will come fearlessness, along with the knowledge and so many blissful things. So with this, I'll stop over here. And if anyone has a questions or comments. So after going out of the class, two things we need to remember, that the fearlessness comes with the surrender, and to stay happy, we need to surrender. So that is, I would say, the key takeaways of the today's discussion is how to stay happy and how to stay fearless. Starts with the surrender towards the Lord. Anyways, we are surrendering, so why not surrender to the Lord?